All right, we're live. Show's supposed to go on at 4:30. One of those days. Lot going on internally. A lot of stories going on in the market, which you should know about. But I just want to reiterate this whole debt ceiling. The market, it seems investors all over the world, consumers alike, businesses, where we're all kind of stuck waiting for the debt ceiling. It's almost like it's an excuse to sit around and do nothing. But life must go on, guys. We can't just sit around and say, "Well, I'm not going to do anything," and let the entire month of May go out. No way. I want you to know something. The debt ceiling, whichever way it goes, I don't have a crystal ball. I could really see congressional leaders fighting and just saying, not willing to negotiate. I could see that. I could see heels dug in. And, let me tell you what the debt ceiling is about, okay? Because a lot of people, I still think, need a primer on it. And if you're one of those people, don't be insulted by what I'm saying. I'm just saying you should know what it's about, what this is. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about some things like the price of lumber and eggs have plunged. And you might not have noticed it in your overall life, but on the wholesale level, prices are starting to come down. Used car prices are starting to come down. Supply chain issues are, for the most part, fixed. You can get what you want and you can get it pretty quickly. We might even start seeing inventory gluts of things that you thought you wouldn't see for even a longer time, like a lot of cars, which are piling up in dealerships now. So we need to go through these things. You need to know what's going on. I think when you have a complete narrative of what's happening with the world, the economy, how politics interacts with it, I think you are more likely to have an investment plan and financial plan that's right for you, and you're more likely to stick with it. And I just want to start by saying this. You could listen to this and then just leave and forget the rest of the show, okay? The debt ceiling negotiation has nothing to do with whether or not you should convert your traditional IRA to a Roth IRA. It has nothing to do with whether or not you should be contributing to a Roth 401k instead of a 401k. It has nothing to do with you updating the beneficiary designations for your retirement plans, your life insurance plans. It has nothing to do with you investing regularly, cutting out unnecessary spending, budgeting, prioritize your spending. Okay, you have to make personal financial decisions for you, for your family, every day, every hour. Think about that. So the budget deficit stuff, this is not, look, I know it's a big deal and I know it could be calamitous. But don't be frightened by it. Whatever happens, we will get past it. Bondholders will be made whole. Government employees who may not get paid for a little bit, they will get paid. Parks will reopen. TSA will operate. By the way, government employees have to go to work by law. They can't just say, "Well, I'm not getting paid. I'm not going to work." They have to go. They will be made whole. I'm not happy about any of this. And then we have to have the U.S. Treasury who pays our bills. The U.S. Treasury, like any treasurer of a club or any organization, you're in the treasurer, which is the Treasury Secretary, Janet Yellen. The Treasury of the United States pays our bills. If they don't have enough money coming in from cash flow, from tax receipts, then they have to decide what bills are they going to pay first, and what bills are they going to put off. The budget deficit is not about new spending. There's nothing about new spending. Raising the debt ceiling, I should say, I said deficit. The debt ceiling, I meant to say, raising the debt ceiling does not give carte blanche for new spending. It means we're going to pay for the stuff that we already bought. Imagine maxing out your credit card and you have to call Visa or MasterCard or Amex and say, I need you to raise my debt limit. And they say no. So you say, well, I'm not going to pay you if you don't raise my debt limit. That's what we're doing. It doesn't, it's not good finance. And I hear people go, oh, we should just let it, default. Let's just default on the debt. 25% of the U.S. debt, just so you know, the way the United States borrows is we issue treasury securities, bonds, treasury bonds. Investor buys us. So if an investor buys a treasury bond for $100,000, they're going to get paid interest. The investor who gives $100,000, who pays $100,000 for the bond, they get interest and they get their $100,000 back at maturity. What they're doing is they're actually loaning money to the United States government. They're loaning our country money. 25% of all those treasury bonds outstanding of the U.S. debt is owned by Social Security. A big chunk is owned by the Federal Reserve. A big chunk is owned by mutual funds of us, U.S. investors. 30% is owned by foreigners. Not all of it, not most of it, 30% of that. The biggest holder of U.S. government debt, the biggest foreign nation, is Japan. It's not China, it's Japan. China is a distant second, and China is rushing to shrink their holdings of U.S. government debt anyway. So when people say, why are we paying money to China? Let's not pay them. Are you saying that just those particular securities we stop paying on? Because, if we are relying on foreigners, 30% of our debt is owned by foreigners, we can't borrow money. You see, the Secretary of the Treasury, says we're out of money on or a little after June 1st. Now, there's still money coming into the government. We're still paying our taxes every month. So there's still some money coming into the government, just not enough to pay all the bills. So the U.S. Treasury has to say, here's who we're going to pay, and here's where we're going to hold off paying. That's how it's going to go. All right. I'm a little steamed up about it because I don't think people really understand it. So, hey, while you're watching, if you have any questions about what we're talking about, or words of wisdom, words of encouragement, I see I got a few already. I'm going to check those out in a second. Ask away in the comments. That's what they're for. It's the best part about this is hearing from you. If you'd like, give us a thumbs up, a heart reaction, an applause, whatever celebration, depending on which platform you're watching from. I'm streaming here. All right. If you want just daily snippets, easy to find, of my 30-second to 1-minute pieces of financial education, check out Instagram, okay? InstaMitchG. And my favorite, Renee Rainville. That's such a cool name, like an alliteration. Renee Rainville. Renee Rainville sounds like it should be like a brand of like acoustic guitars. I don't know why I think that, but anyway, Mitch, I'm back to get your great content and fun delivery. Thank you very, very much. And Evan says, Burt Lumber and Cleat Lumber. I know what Cleat Lumber is up in Huntington. I don't know what Burt Lumber is, unless you're telling me that those are people you know. Do you know somebody named Burt Lumber? Okay, Evan, I appreciate you taking the time to comment. I have to, it takes me a minute to get inside your head sometimes, okay? And Renee sends the guitar emoji. Thank you very much. So, let's roll the intro because I'd like that. Shouldn't the intro be at the beginning, but it's going to be at the middle right now. So here's the intro. Then we're going to talk about a few quick things, retail sales, and a little personal finance. And here we go. Just wondering, while everybody's worried about the debt ceiling, I'm going about my business. And I just want to put it out there. For me personally, for my investments, my personal finance, I haven't changed a thing because of the debt ceiling. And I'm not going to, because we'll be back on track. And in a couple of years, We're not even going to remember this. Do you remember when Standard and Poor's downgraded the U.S. debt? It was like 2011. And nobody remembers it because it was a tough market for like a couple of hours. And then we just got by it and everybody was okay. I don't think S&P should have downgraded the debt back then. They downgraded it on threat that the budget ceiling wouldn't be raised. It was raised. We had no problem paying our interest. I really don't see why that was. But in any event, maybe they just wanted to send a signal. Rating agencies shouldn't be there to I don't think they're in existence to send signals, but whatever. It's just something that we have to live with. Okay. Bert used to be next to Cleet. Okay. Fun fact in the Huntington Station area. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Evan. I appreciate it. I appreciate you, man. And I'm glad you took the time to tune in. Got a couple of new viewers out there recently. So I've been hearing from you guys, and I thank you very much for taking the time. So, all right. So the price of eggs, price of lumber have come down, but it's metals also. Even gold is now under the price of 2,000. It just can't hold its range. Gold finally got to 2,000, and people are like, oh, now it's going to go to 3,000. I can't even hold 2,000. And the reason I'm making a point of that is because you have. Let me just put this on, okay? Let me throw this up there. Show you a couple of screens. Make my screens bigger. Okay, too big. Let's go to screen 4. Let's get this out of the news on Tesla. I'm not really so keen on news from Tesla. Elon Musk says we're coming out with this, we're coming out with that, and then they finally come out with something, and it's usually good. I'm glad they wait to put out a decent product, but it's hype. It's a funny thing when a company exists and is valued on hype, how they get such a high valuation, and then they finally turn a profit. They finally start making money. They finally have revenues, and then people all of a sudden don't like the stock as much, and the stock goes down. Why? Because betting on the dream is a much higher valuation for a company than betting on their actual earnings and revenues. It's the way it is. Dream stocks. All right, so let's keep going here. U.S. Treasuries. This is the biggest indication of what's happening with the debt ceiling. You see this? The 1 month is up to 1 month T-bill, 5.5%. You get a 3 month, 90-day T-bill for over 5%. These are striking numbers. Okay, if you put 100,000 into 3 month T-bill, you don't get $5,200. Okay, you get a quarter of that. All right, that it's an annualized yield, and yet you go down to the 10-year, it's 3.5%. So investors are not so worried about the longer term as they are in terms of what's going to happen over the near term. And the funny thing is, usually in times of stress, investors flock to near-term treasury, sending yields lower. Now investors are worried that if there's a default, a credit default, default on our U.S. treasuries, that they don't want to hold 1 month, 2 month, and 3 month T-bills, even 6 month T-bills. I can't tell you for sure if it's a mistake or not. But like I said, if I see a good yield there, I'll go for it if I think it's attractive for myself or for a client. And if crazy thing happens, we default on the debt, which is the last thing I think the Treasury is going to default on. But if it does, well, you'll be made whole when they raise the debt ceiling. This whole debt ceiling is over how much they want to raise it. In the scheme of things, it's not a huge number. It's just where the cuts could be made, which could be rather draconian, in my view, in terms of possible Medicaid, Medicare, that sort of thing. So, we'll see what's protected, and SNAP also, work for more stringent work requirements. We'll see. But price of eggs have come down a lot. They're up in the last year from about 220 to 320, but they've come down tremendously. And let's see if we have lumber. Lumber per like 1,000 square foot board, 344 from 1,700. It was over 1,700 in 2021. So lumber has absolutely look at this. You can barely fit it in the screen, but from all the way up here, all the way down here, it's like a $17 stock going down to $3. Okay, lumber has absolutely cratered. And while I got you here, let's just take a look at Zillow, because these are all so related to the housing market. Okay, symbol Z. I should know that symbol Z. Okay, Zillow is 44, not too far from its high, but I don't want to just go by its high. The stock. Let's look at in the last year. Let's look in the last 5 years. Zillow was almost $200 a share at its peak in 2021. So a little over 2 years ago, 2 years and 3 months ago, it was over 200. Now it's 44. And the big news of what really hit the stock market today is Home Depot. Home Depot down 6. Your high is 347 down to 28. So think of like a $34, $35 stock down to 28. So that puts it in perspective. It's not the hugest hit in the world. If anybody's going to recover from a down market, it's Home Depot. And Home Depot has been saying, and analysts have been saying, oh, but don't worry, they get the home improvement market. People are doing their stuff to the house. It just goes to show you there is no better benefit to Home Depot than people actually moving in to another house. Not necessarily a new house, a pre-owned, existing home sales. That's when people spend the most money. Projects. And projects are back, or, people are cutting back on projects. They're not moving into different houses. They're not up moving. They're not down moving. They're kind of stuck. And you've got a lot of people, boomers, aging boomers, who've decided to age in place in their home as opposed to leaving their home because their mortgage is like, 3% or under. They're not going anywhere. It's so cheap for them to live that, and if they're not moving. And I can tell you around where I am in Long Island, these, 55 plus communities, these units aren't cheap. A lot of these units, the units are like 800,000, 900,000, 1 million, 1 million too. So you're going to sell your house in Melville or Jericho, Long Island for 800,000 or 900,000. You have to pay like 1.3 million to get into a nice place that you want to go to. It's just not worth it. And that's just what's out of whack. And there's no bargains, Florida's gotten expensive also. And a lot of people like to move to Florida because they think it's cheap. But Florida is no longer the bargain that you think it is. And even though you think, well, I'm not paying state income tax, you're paying through the nose and so many other fees and insurance and homeowners and car and auto insurance and stuff like that. I'm telling you, it's not the bargain it used to be, unless you're going to move to like the outskirts of Orlando or something. And that's just a different ballpark, different world for a lot of us. Okay. It's, we want to move to the coast, East or West Coast, where it's nicer, where we feel more comfortable. When I say we, that could be interpreted a few times. And I'm going to just say, what's with you people? I take that. All right. That's where your mind goes. Look, this is just a pretty ho-hum day. We've been going through this every day. Market was down today, a couple hundred points. Not the end of the world. It's not a huge day by any stretch. Until the debt ceiling debate is over, we're just going to, tread water. People are getting a little nervous that we could have a down swoosh in the market. So maybe some investors are raising some cash. Maybe they're just worried about Home Depot. But we are all expecting a recession. What I'm telling you is I'm expecting inflation to go down. And by the time a recession is called, and we don't know until after the fact, by the time it's called, market's usually is already on its way back up. So are you worried about the value of your portfolio? Or are you worried about just the money you're going to need for the next year or two? When you start to separate those two things, it should make you a lot calmer about the market, because markets go up and markets go down. And I look at it this way. Bad news is meant to spook weak holders, get you out of your financial plan, your investment plan, and it creates opportunities for those who are sticking to their plan and who are going to buy. And by no means am I suggesting that you sell everything and think you're going to be clever enough to buy everything back at the exact right time and everything crashes. You're going to be the one who runs in there and buys everything. It ain't going to happen because what you're looking for never happens. There could be a crash. It could be a down market. It could stay down for a lot of volatility. And you'll keep waiting and waiting and waiting for that special time, that special moment when you should invest it all. When I'm telling you, it ain't going to happen. You're just going to wait and you're going to wait. You're going to wait. 4 or 5 years go by or longer. And when the coast is clear and the market's up and you're more comfortable investing because the market's up, that's when you're going to get back in and you're going to go through the same thing over again. We're just not going to make that mistake. And if you just knew that, you wouldn't even watch the live stream anymore, right? But I want to keep you informed. So I want to thank you so much. You can't invest, by the way, directly into an index, but you could invest into a security that tracks or mimics an index. We'll see what tomorrow brings. The congressional leaders are supposed to meet today, this afternoon. I don't know if they met yet or not. I'm looking through the news and I haven't seen anything. Maybe you have. I've been focusing on the show and getting through my day. Keep in mind, whatever. I'm moving to an office, as you know, and I'll keep posting updates about that. Thanks again, everybody, and have a great evening. Bye.